Hey everyone, this is David, your favorite host of Shonen Flop. We are actually releasing a piece of Patreon content on the main feed as a way of celebrating 4 years of Shonen Flop. We really appreciate everything everyone's been doing, and we will catch you next week as we have a brand new chibi episode on Mama Yu Yu. We just recorded the main episode. It's going to be an absolute blast to be talking about the series, and God, I can't believe it's 4 years. We love you guys so much, and thank you all so much for listening and just being awesome fans of the show. If you're interested in hearing the rest, by the way, you can actually find Part 2 and Part 3 on our Patreon. It was super great to go through the whole series, and of course you get a lot of awesome other perks, including other bonus episodes of our Shonen Drop monthly series, where we talk about the previous episode, and things like the warm-up audio and helping us pick what series we'll cover next. Find that at patreon.com/shonenflop.
Hello, our wonderful patrons. Thanks for all your support.
I'm David.
I'm Jordan.
This episode, we're taking a look at the Ichinose's Family Deadly Sins.
No, that's...
What? What'd I say wrong?
Ichinose's Family Deadly Sins, basically. That's
the
what you said.
Ichinose Family's Deadly Sins.
Yes.
Canceled manga that is too long for us to cover in a normal episode. And we're talking about volumes 1 and 2, chapters 1 through 16. And we are joined by a man who needs no introduction, the legendary Rem from Anime Out of Context.
Thank you, guys.
Rem, I am still contractually obligated to let you give yourself an introduction if you would like.
Of course. Hey, I'm one of the co-hosts of Anime Out of Context. My weeby friend shows me anime, and I usually do not like it. So
I love having the person on our podcast that we get so many thirsty usernames directed at.
Yeah.
You have no idea how many people are subscribed to our Patreon that are like, Rem, fuck me in the mouth. Sean and Rem double team me. Sean, I want to have your babies. Rem, let's have sex on the ground. Like,
oh my god.
Sometimes they don't even make sense. They're like, Rem, shave my barnacles off my boat.
Oh my god.
Is that a metaphor, or like you need like a deckhand?
I will say we have had a little bit of the inverse just
Really?
recently. Yeah, we had a patron name just this past reading referencing you guys. So there's some nice crossover now. It's now bleeding both directions.
you know why it is? It's because on our Floppies episode at the end, I was literally like, you know what? We get so many thirsty fucking messages about two people who are not on the fucking podcast. How about you said things about us to them? So I'm glad to hear it worked.
All right, we're having fun. So for those who are not familiar, Rem is legendary, and there are very few anime he likes, and there's even less manga, because this is Rem's second ever manga.
Well, we don't know yet. Maybe he liked it. I don't know.
I mean, there's a fifth, based on his current batting average, he's like 0 manga that we have introduced him to read on the show, so we'll see.
There's like a 0.5% chance he likes this, but who knows? Maybe that's still a chance. I don't know.
I'll say this much. It's certainly better than Hungry Marie.
There we go.
There we go.
That's our show, everyone.
There we go. Thank you.
That's a glowing review from Rem.
So I have been trying to tell Rem that if there's a manga I think he would like, it'd be Dungeon Meshi, and this will come out after yours, but they actually just recorded it, so they're about to record it, so I'm really excited to see if my opinion of what Rem likes is actually just completely in the toilet when it comes to predicting if Rem will like something.
Whether it's accurate or whether I'm going to break your heart.
It's okay. It's my best guess.
When it comes to you, Rem, we expect the negative.
Yeah.
That's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, what is it, that quote where it's like, when it comes to something, always bet on shit?
My best guess is Murphy's Law, but
I can like half remember this quote.
Like, prepare for the worst and hope for the best?
No. I'm gonna Google this.
Oh my god.
Oh, 1v1, always bet on Kaido.
Oh, yeah.
From One Piece. When it's Rem 1v1ing a manga, always bet on Rem. All right, but let's actually get into talking about this manga. God, I really just forgot all of the actually important words in that quote.
Seriously.
I'm very impressed Google actually knew what the fuck I was trying to think of.
figured it out.
So anyway, this series is by Taizan 5, who did a series called Takopi's Original Sin, which is very good. It's only like 16 chapters. Man, this is him restraining himself.
Oh boy.
Really?
For people who are familiar, so essentially Taizan 5 was they were kind of trying to recreate the magic of Chainsaw Man, where they're like, hey, this dude made a kind of successful, really fucked up manga. Let's have him write something for kids and see what happens, like a Digimon Tamer situation.
Oh, Tamers.
They did that. This obviously didn't work, but it's pretty much he is probably about as fucked up in the head as Fujimoto is.
Oh my gosh.
Rev, have you ever seen Digimon Tamers?
I don't know if I have.
It's PG Evangelion.
It's Ava for kids.
Oh man, that's whew.
It's unironically actually I watched it 10 years ago, so I've seen it as an adult. It's actually still really good.
It's good.
There's a good chance that I saw it at some point. Like, I used to be, when I was real young, like, Digimon was a thing that I would watch some of. I just don't remember much of it at all.
When I was a kid, I hated it because it's like, where's Tai? I miss Tai. Where is he?
When Ty's not on screen, everyone should be asking, where's Ty?
That was literally me. Where's Agumon? What the fuck?
Yep.
I'm glad we're bringing up Digimon because I'm going to talk about that later in terms of the tone of this series. But anyway, this ran for, I somehow forgot to write what the month was for this. Give me 1 second.
This ran from 2022.
14th month, Smartshember. It ran from November 14th, 2022 to November 6th, 2023. So they're like, no, you ain't got a year in you. Sorry, buddy.
Almost a full year. Just like, it seems like they canceled it almost a year just out of spite. Like, nah, fuck you, man. You're not going to make it a full year.
They didn't want to pay that year-end bonus.
I actually remember when this came out. It came out at the same time as Cypher Academy, Ichigaki's Under Control, and Fabricant 100. And 3 of those manga have been canceled. Is Cypher Academy still going?
Cypher Academy ends, I think, next week.
Okay, so all 4 of them have been canceled.
I believe every manga that started in 2022 in Shonen Jump was canceled.
Oh.
That's what it seems like.
The magazine's not doing good.
Oh, no.
All right, and this was 48 chapters over 6 volumes, hence it being too long for a main episode. And, all right, let's find out what happened in these very... I don't know why this was published in Shonen Jump. You'll find out when we talk about the plot summary, so let's get into it.
Tsubasa Ichinose wakes up in the hospital one morning, surrounded by his family, when he suddenly realizes that he has amnesia and doesn't know who he or anyone else is. It's okay, though, because the rest of the family also has amnesia, and they don't remember who the fuck they are. Aside from Tsubasa, there's Minaka, his mom, Kakeru, his dad, Sachie, I think that's how you pronounce it, his grandma, Kozo, his grandpa, and Shiori, his little sister. They were apparently all in a terrible car accident, and when they woke up, they forgot everything. When they return to their house, they find it in a horrible state, just trash just fucking everywhere. They each have their own rooms, and when Tsubasa walks into his, he discovers that the walls are covered in one Japanese character that I can't read. And the other members of his family are very mysterious about what is in their own rooms. The next day, Tsubasa goes back to school, eager to discover what kind of person he was, only to find that everyone fucking hates him. Popcorn David.
By the way, I think the kanji that was written was the word die.
Yep.
Oh!
Just die everywhere.
Yeah. I figured it was, like, important, and then I was like, why is there no translator's note to tell me what this one kanji is? Like, I figured it was one short word, and I figured it was something like die. Like, I was just like, this seems important.
I saw a little translator's note.
I did too.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Never mind then. I must have just missed it.
Yeah.
The reading comprehension devil strikes again.
It's my fault then. My bad. I didn't mean to slander you, translator.
Yeah, sorry. We respect our translators, except for that one series where there was one that had a really bad official translation.
Well, real quick, Rem, do you know about what happened with Cypher Academy?
I do not know.
So Cypher Academy is a manga all about, like, Japanese word puzzles, and the English translator at one point just quit.
Yeah, I mean, that feels like an impossible task.
Yeah, it's impossible.
There was straight up a chapter where the translator said, I can't translate these puzzles. I'm just going to tell you what the puzzles are supposed to mean. Which is fair, right?
In a case like that, you're just like, hey, translator, basically just recreate this premise. Good luck.
And you have a week to do it.
Oh
no. God.
It was translated real time, so we only had like a week to train up. But anyway, one of the kids, Nakajima, says he's his best friend before bullying him relentlessly. Tsubasa retaliates and calls him a dickhead, leading to the school turning on him instead. Tsubasa feels bad though and tries to help him, making them actually friends this time. While collecting charity for the environment as punishment for throwing trash everywhere, Tsubasa sees Shiori in the arms of a much older man.
Uh-oh.
After tailing them for a bit, Tsubasa confronts Shiori, who says that when she unlocked her phone, she discovered texts from him asking to meet up, and when she did, she immediately started fawning all over him to her own horror. She also pushes him into her own room by accident, which is covered in creepy stuffed bunnies.
By him, I mean Tsubasa, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tsubasa confronts a 28-year-old man with his 13-year-old sister, and he runs away when he realizes someone saw him with a minor. Soon, Kakeru goes on a business trip and takes the whole family. That's so sweet, but seemingly intentionally drives into a guardrail. Maybe that's not so sweet.
Yeah.
Recreating the crash from the beginning. Tsubasa wakes up in the hospital with amnesia, and the entire first chapter repeats itself, except for the fact that Kakeru is now replaced with a different person who claims to be him. I guess they couldn't get the actor back for the second half of the season.
Yeah, it's weird when that happens, you know?
It's like that thing from WandaVision, you're like, they recast him? Popcorn Rem.
It's interesting, first of all, just how much of a shift just suddenly comes at this point.
Yeah.
With the narrative. Because it's like, at first, this is going to be interesting to discover all of their little personal stories, little family drama. And this is where it takes a big turn.
You could say it takes an absolute dive.
Yeah, no, at that point, it's like, oh no, they're in a time loop. This is like, well, we find out the exact situation in a little bit.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's like, whoa, it suddenly like turns into like a full-blown sci-fi thing.
Yeah. Though, Rem, do you mind telling us what happens in that last third of this?
Yeah, of course. Tsubasa, however, soon starts to remember his father and notices inconsistencies, but the fake dad tells him he's crazy.
Nice gaslighting, seriously. This guy should be canceled, honestly. There's a couple, like, him and that 28-year-old, that's at least two guys who need to be canceled.
Yeah. Then Tsubasa discovers his real dad working at Burger King, but he doesn't remember him. His father goes to meet him.
His mother goes
to meet him, but tells Tsubasa to stop talking to him. Kakeru has a girlfriend who has a child, and Minako starts to remember that she had found out that the father was having an affair. She goes to kidnap the child, planning on killing him, but is caught with Kakeru, who interprets the situation as her finding the child and thanks her, very appreciative.
Yeah.
Minako goes back home and reads her diary from before she lost her memory, and it heavily implies that she had killed the child. Fake dad then approaches Minako to tell her that time's up, and she disappears as if she just never existed. Her door's gone. That's just the end of it. The next day, Tsubasa discovers that her room is gone. Fake dad assures him, he never had a mom. Kozo then pulls Tsubasa into his room, which has a ton of papers and chalkboard covered in notes. The grandpa tells Tsubasa that according to these notes, he was a physics professor, and this is the 2000th time loop.
Shockingly large number.
Right?
Yeah. Like,
that's a lot of fucking time loops.
That's how many that the grandpa specifically remembers. And so theoretically, like, the grandpa should have an encyclopedic knowledge of a lot of principles here.
Like, how old are they, technically? Like,
well, if it's a time loop, their age resets.
Yeah, but, like, obviously it's intentional. It's not like a flaw in the manga, but it's like, whoa.
It's just a bold decision.
Exactly.
And then let's get into talking about the characters. So, Rem, do you mind telling us?
Hold on. There's one sentence left.
Oh, sorry.
So it turns out that by killing them in a secondary accident, Kakeru the father did something in the previous time loop to change this one that is now causing Tsubasa to remember. They then confront the fake dad and they demand answers.
So Jordan put a comma instead of a period, but I think that really alludes to the adventure continues. And that's why he totally did that, right, Jordan? It wasn't a typo.
Yeah.
Jordan just takes a drag-ass cigarette. He's like, so is on purpose, baby.
There you go.
Look, it's just like jazz. You know, you just pretend your mistakes are intentional and everyone agrees with you.
All right, so let's get into the characters. So, Rem, as our honored guest, do you want to tell us about the main character of the series?
Yeah, so the main character, Tsubasa, he's the one who we have the point of view of the entire time. Occasionally, it'll veer away with a minor focus on other characters, but it's always about Tsubasa. He's a nice guy, very chipper. He believes in familial principles, right? He just wants...
Would you say that he believes in family values?
Oh, he certainly does, yeah.
He's a Republican, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
Just your standard tradcon junior high protagonist of a shonen. So yeah, just a real happy-go-lucky fella who is apparently also in, before the amnesia, hardcore emo phase, bully, and also getting bullied. It's just a very toxic source and toxic everything around him and him towards everything.
You get the sense that, like, this shift, because they show him before, from his friend's perspective, Nakajima's perspective, he remembers him before this phase, and he was, like, this much happier, sweet kind of kid, and it seems like when his mom discovered that his father was having an affair, their whole home life, like, took a huge
Nosedive, yeah.
You know, like, understandable, and that's kind of when it started. Also, for some reason, he's the only one who wears a bandage around his head.
Yeah, he wears the bandage around his head. I mean, as far as we've read,
He's got a receding hairline. That's how he's hiding it.
Yeah.
Everybody else, you know, their heads are okay, but his, it needs to be bandaged, I guess, permanently.
Oh God, what if they take off the bandage towards the end and it's got like a microchip in it? Hey, it might happen. It might fucking happen.
It might. There's actually a lot of somewhat interesting commentary about like nature versus nurture, how our environment and memories of our experiences craft our personality as opposed to what's inbuilt. Because the implication is that Tsubasa, naturally his disposition and temperament is that happy-go-lucky source. It's just that because of his experiences, they molded him into his emo phase, into his emo asshole phase, as it were.
Though there are these interesting elements where he tries to be nice, but then his body like forces him to be a huge asshole, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's this duology of how they are so drastically different people after the amnesia than they actually were.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I'm only going to bring it up this once, but I feel like it has to at least be briefly mentioned that amnesia just does not work this way.
No, it doesn't.
And it's very inconsistently handled, even in the manga itself, where it's like, all right, they forget everything about themselves and each other, but they like kind of maybe remember some things about themselves or their preferences. But other times, they don't even know if they like spicy food. And then sometimes they kind of know how to do other things or remember things about the world, for example. But then in other cases, no, they have no clue of these very basic ideas.
Yeah. I totally want to talk about this, but I feel like why don't we finish the character section and we can actually start talking from a high level about
100%.
the series.
Yeah.
So Jordan, why don't you tell us about the mom as we alluded to a little bit?
Minaka seems like a really nice mom, like at first, and then when she sees Kakeru working at Burger King, she realizes, she starts to remember, you know, like, oh, fuck, my husband's a goddamn loser, and he was cheating on me. I must kill his girlfriend's child. I must. So it turns out there's a lot of darkness inside of Minaka.
Would you say almost a family sin?
Ha!
Ooh, that's a good connection.
And it's also like implied that Minaka like knows about the fake dad too.
Yeah.
There's like something going on there, but it gets interrupted. She disappears before we learn anything more about that possible relationship or understanding.
It seems like she's very interested in shielding Tsubasa to a point where it probably gets in the way. Like, she kind of should tell him what the deal is with the fake dad. He knows that he's fake.
Yeah.
Like, he keeps saying it. Like, all you're doing is enabling the gaslighting at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. To get into the dad, I'll talk about Kakeru. So he's a coward. He cheats on his wife. He gets just replaced during the time loop.
He starts working at Burger King, as I keep saying.
He is kind of a loser because it's weird. He seems like this really happy, supportive dad. And then you find he's just like a complete fuck up.
Yeah.
You see, even back to the themes of like your environment molding you a little bit. You see two things. One, apparently it may or may not actually be like there's some ambiguity about the affair itself, because then in the time loop replacement afterwards, it's not even that the woman that he's been spending time with is his girlfriend. It's just a friend.
Yeah.
And then you also see that like the mom was extremely like negative and toxic as soon as like the dad lost his nice job and had to make do. She had a lot of like negative and toxic feelings even before an affair were to begin, which of course would not justify an affair.
No.
It's interesting to see how these could push and craft that kind of experience.
Yeah, because, like, he starts working at that chain restaurant. I don't think it's literally Burger King, but I think it's funny to say.
It's Kurger Bing.
It's Kurger Bing, or it's Big Bang Burger from my Persona fans get it. My Persona fans get it. But yeah, like he starts bringing chicken nuggets home and she's like, I fucking hate these chicken nuggets. I fucking hate them.
She is pissed off about the chicken nuggets. But then she's very sad when he doesn't bring the chicken nuggets.
And then she just starts buying a ton and her room is just filled with like fast food.
Psychology is a crazy thing.
Yeah.
The next character, Sachi the grandma, doesn't really do anything yet.
She's just the grandma.
She'll have some insane reveal later, but
I'm sure she's behind all of it, honestly.
She might be.
And I thought Kozo was going to do nothing. And then the last chapter is like, oh, Kozo's super fucking is like the most important fucking person in the series.
Kozo's so important.
One thing I do like is that, like, in the very first chapter, when all the family's doing their introductions, right? It gets to the grandpa, Kozo, and he's just so done with it. He's like, Kozo, this is my age. And at first you think, like, oh, that's a curmudgeonly grandpa, right? We're all familiar with that character. But then, in hindsight, you realize, oh, it's because he's aware of it, and this is his 2000th time doing this?
God, I can't imagine.
So he's just going through the motions, let's get this over with. He just kind of yada yadas it.
They show him from like earlier time loops and he does seem like more on top of it, more like present, more in control. And yeah, by this time he just seems burned out.
Which, hot take, actually is a sign of good writing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I will get into, but one last character, Rem, can you tell us about Shiori?
Oh yeah, she's the little sister. She is very upset about the whole situation, about losing the memories. She's concerned that maybe those memories, they're never going to meaningfully come back, that there might be long-term issues, that there might not be a satisfying resolution. And she, just before the amnesia, apparently had some weird relationships with adults or at least one adult, who, as we learn, the adult apparently didn't know that she was a minor, but also maybe don't prey on people who look 13.
First of all, I do not fucking buy it. I think he said that because he didn't want to get in trouble. I don't know how you couldn't know that she was 13, okay? Like...
This isn't a case where it's like there's any even plausible deniability, which still wouldn't get you very far. This is a case where it's like, come on, bro. You can't be hanging out with 13-year-olds and then be like, what? It's a minor.
If you add all the time loop time in...
Shut up, David. No, she's actually a 5,000-year-old demon.
She's 13, but she's been 13 for 2,000 time loops.
Yeah.
Her mind has been trapped in the 13-year-old.
Not seen that one yet. That might be an 800 IQ move than the 5,000-year-old dragon.
I could accept that the grandpa, he has mentally aged those 2,000 days. But Shiori has been trapped in the time loop this whole time, and thus has stayed the exact same.
That's fair.
I will say she is also the only one who can unlock her phone.
Yeah.
Which is mentioned as important.
Her code was 7777, which is the number 7. How many deadly sins are there?
Oh.
Well, there's 8, David. The 8th one is justice, as
fuck
we all
off.
know.
All right, you know what? Fuck off. Let's get into why it failed. For context, that was actually a manga said the 8th deadly sin is justice. It was by the guy who made Soul Eater and Fire Force.
That sounds like one of the most pretentious lines
I have to bring it up whenever the deadly sins are mentioned.
Speaking of failed ideas, Rem, do you want to just go hog? I feel like my gut is just on average. I assume you don't like things, but I guess just tell us from the top. Do you feel you dislike this more than you like this? Just before I know what section I should let you go wild on.
All right. From what I've seen, I think I slightly like it more than I don't.
Whoa!
What?
There's a somewhat significant asterisk.
Okay, so why don't you tell us what the asterisk is in this failed section?
I think that because of how it is written, and I can delve into that a little bit later, but it uses a specific tool that is really good early on and absolute trash later. So
Yeah.
right now it's slightly better than it is worse, and I am fully expecting it to shit the bed and become really actively bad.
I completely agree. This series is going to shit the bed.
This is a flopped manga, so
Yeah.
clearly something happened to keep it from continuing on.
See, but I feel like even at this stage, are you guys familiar with the idea of J.J. Abrams, his mystery box?
I know of J.J. Abrams.
So the mystery box, it's a concept, like most famously in reference to the show Lost, but it's been taken a lot, and it's as what it seems, right?
What's in the box? What's in the box?
For a little bit of investment, you will get a lot of return, but you don't know what that return will look like. And mystery box narratives, they are narratives like Lost, where it's always focused on big reveals that raise further questions, all right? Mm-hmm. Where it's enhancing the stakes. And so you're like, okay, so I have all these questions, and it's like, all right, I'm going to answer one of those questions. Isn't this a crazy answer? And it makes you wonder, oh, but now, what does that mean? Why is that the case? Etc., etc. The issue with that, especially in a more serial format that we would see in a manga, is that usually you're just coming up with interesting cliffhangers, mysteries, moments of reveals without any actual meaningful development or resolution. And it means that eventually it's going to catch up to you, and almost always it ends up flopping towards the end where it's, okay, so how is this all going to possibly come together? And then the author looks at you, shrugs, says goodbye, and you're like, oh, I was only invested because it felt like there was a greater plan involved. Now that there isn't, it kind of makes me feel like I wasted my time.
Yeah, like the One Piece is gonna be.
I think One Piece is gonna nail the ending. Fuck you, Jordan.
All right.
But yeah, this is just, you cannot write a series like this week to week. You do not have enough time to do all of the pieces, especially when he both drew and wrote it.
You have to eventually pay off the things that you were setting up. And if you have spent so long building it up, it is very hard to figure out something that is truly satisfying.
And we see more and more of these mystery box narratives after it's become popular because, oh man, is it popular? People get so invested because you do have these crazy reveals, these huge moments, these deep mysteries that people ponder, and it feels like it's all part of something bigger. The problem is that if it doesn't have a payoff, it doesn't have the substance, and I am 99% sure that this manga is in that category. So yeah, it's doing some cool stuff early on, but I don't think it's actually going anywhere.
I wish you read Witch Watch, because they had an entire, so Witch Watch has it where they have a fictional manga in it that's considered like to make zero sense, and they had a chapter of the fictional manga as a chapter, and the entire chapter is making fun of the vague writing people do when they don't know, where it's like, he's back at it? Yes. And what about them? Of course, they're doing it just in case it happens again.
Oh, fuck. Yep.
My favorite line from that is somebody asks like an old man something and he's like, yes, but also no.
It's legitimately the fun. I fucking love Witch Watch. Anyway, so to get back into the issue, so I also think that this series, like, so much emotional whiplash, it's such torture porn, and I felt it was really hard actually to read all these chapters in a short amount of time, because you were just getting hit over and over again by trauma porn, and it just all kind of blends together. Like, how many times Tsubasa's shit on when he's in school, you like notice that's kind of the same thing over and over again if you read it in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And I think that could be okay, but I think the main issue is that that's not like the main theme. It's a theme of the manga, but it's not the main theme. So it's like, why are we spending so much time on it? I was surprised when we get basically a full chapter about like the best friend's backstory before we got any type of information about a different family member. I'm like, oh, like already it is broadening its focus further than it should.
Yeah.
It's like, you gave us the cast of characters and we're like, oh, and they all have interesting secrets. Like, that was enough. And then you're like, okay, and an interesting time loop. Okay, you've introduced two compelling, interesting ingredients that could be good enough on their own. You've put them together. That's all you need. And then it's like, and then what if? And you're like, no, stop. You're good. You have everything you need. It's like, but what if we added more?
Rem, I'm so glad you're a guest on this episode.
I also was confused by their relationship because it's like Nakajima is like a total asshole to him, but then in his flashbacks, it seems like he actually loves him, you know, but it's like he actually dislikes him. I didn't understand.
Well, I think it was a case where they're best friends, right? And then eventually Tsubasa, because of probably his family life, becomes an emo asshole. He starts mistreating Nakajima and dismissing him. And so that hardens Nakajima. And then when a vulnerable Tsubasa comes and he's no longer like has that protective asshole shell, now Nakajima's like, okay, this is my opportunity to get a little bit of revenge.
I feel like this author spent 10,000 hours drawing trash.
Yeah, there's a lot of very, very well, just like very minutely detailed trash.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to say again, you guys should definitely read Takopi's original sin, which is this in 16 chapters, and it was like done as a miniseries, which alleviates probably all of these issues.
Yeah.
You see a lot of kids crying in that manga, so he's definitely practiced kids being miserable very extensively. I think the volume art is a child crying. Speaking of the art, by the way, I noticed he doesn't do black gutters for flashbacks, which also made things really confusing.
That I was kind of okay with.
I think he did that on purpose, but I was still like, ugh.
Yeah, I think the blending together of memories and time loops, that feels not only deliberate, but like possibly one of the main themes of the entire manga.
I mean, David, do you want over half the manga to just have black gutters?
That's fair. Fine. Though that does tie in, as I also felt the paneling wasn't very efficient. Like, most pages only have 2 or 3 panels in it, so it's like also moving very slowly. Like, you don't need so many giant, like, I get it's cool to have the splash page of the garbage hitting him, but there's so many like 2-page spreads where I'm like, you've got a lot of story to tell and you really haven't been using your time very well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's one of those examples of being inconsistently paced where if you just look at everything that's happened, oh boy, you can list off a highlight reel of insane shit that has happened thus far. And yet, it feels like those weren't properly built up to or developed. And so I'm like, I want you to take a little bit more time letting these huge things resolve themselves, letting the impact be felt, develop into the next one, and spread those huge moments out a bit, not using its time as well as it could, and yet it immediately rushes to the next big moment.
No, I mean, one sign of, like, the fact that a ton of stuff happens is just, like, the length of my plot summary. Look, Rem, I gotta tell you, we've read 16 chapters before where I have had very little to say about them.
Those are entire runtimes of series we've covered.
Yeah.
Yes.
So speaking on the note of Jordan's wonderful plot summaries, that makes me think about the positives. Let's dive into that. So Jordan, what would you say is the things you actually enjoyed about the series?
So here's the thing, Rem kind of mentioned the mystery box, and he mentioned, like, he doesn't think that, like, this series can cash in on the checks that it's writing, but at the same time, for now, it's very compelling, because you are like, what the fuck is going on? What is happening? This is so strange. Like, the more you learn about it, like, I really want to know what is in, like...
What's in the box?
What's in the rooms, basically. Like, what is in Cocker's room and what is in the grandma's room. I think at this point, those are the 2 rooms that we haven't opened yet. Like,
they've built up what really could be, if well executed, a perfect mystery box, because you have all the mysteries of each room, right? And what that says about each character. And then presumably each room then alludes to, but wouldn't outright say, a certain, like, secret of each character. Okay, all of that, wildly fascinating. Add a little bit of time loop, that is a huge mystery. Okay, that can be compelling.
Yeah.
They are compelling mysteries. The nature of the mystery box is that in the first half or the first quarter, oh baby, like, it catches your attention. You're like, oh, these are so many interesting ideas. It allows your brain and your imagination to run wild in possibility.
Like, you never hear people complaining about the first few seasons of Lost.
Yeah. Those are the ones that invest them.
This series has a really great honeymoon period, and now I am worried that we're about to get to the point where, like, he can't deliver on this shit.
Yeah.
I would be so amazed if it's, like, got better and if it was like, actually, it has been well thought out, because the nature of these serialized things, it's real difficult to do. But yeah, that mystery itself, I think, is the driving force of what it's doing well and how it drew attention in the first place. It does have an interesting, compelling start that will surprise you week to week.
I also want to say, like, the art, on the note of the art, the first time I saw this manga, because I actually read the first chapter when it came out. When I first saw the manga's art, I was like, this looks horrible. This looks like bullshit. And then as the series goes on, it's like, I kind of get it. Like, oh, wow, this is just like an intentional style. This is actually a talented artist who is constantly doing these crazy, fisheye, distorted, like, space situations that make the manga almost feel surreal. The house doesn't feel like a real actual place, partly because of, like, how strange everything is.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just like there's a level of creativity in the paneling that like we talk about Fujimoto being creative. This is like Fujimoto's like, fuck, how do I get to this guy's level?
Yeah.
Rem, you do not see paneling. Like you don't see panels that look like this in manga ever. This is like an alien came and started drawing manga of like the way he frames and draw. I asked Jordan, like, is this filters? And he's like, no, he literally hand draws these weird perspectives.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Because you don't do it because it's insane to draw those by hand.
Yeah. No, it's difficult. I really do think that he is just drawing those perspectives. It's very well done. It's definitely harder than it seems. And it's in this weird spot where, yeah, it simultaneously looks childish and very well done, which is an extremely hard needle to thread, you know?
Yeah, it's a case where at first glance, right, you're like, okay, this is like a 4 out of 10. It's kind of mediocre, but not awful. And then you realize, as you notice like more details, oh, this has been extremely deliberately crafted in this very specific way.
Yeah, I remember the folds on Shiori's clothes are extremely well detailed.
Detail is actually a thing that especially I noticed that this author uses to create emphasis on, like, it's not, oh, this is the single most important detail you're ever going to see, but it's especially relevant, like, this is important for this character, right? So we see Tsubasa, okay, pretty standard, pretty simple design and not wildly detailed as a character, but then you see the food scraps put on him and you're like, okay, that's extremely detailed. You see Shiori, all right, pretty standard, but when she puts on her specific outfit, right, way more detailed when she's out on a date with the fucking 28-year-old.
Oh god, the pedophile, yeah. I actually will say that the strange, like, large, almost blank heads creates, like, a negative space in the middle of all of the clutter.
Yeah.
So that it's like you can see the face very clearly. It's like a break. It, like, draws you into the faces. Like, otherwise it would just be extremely cluttered, just very like overpowering, and you wouldn't really be able to figure out what's going on. But because he does this, you can follow things. You can like see their faces. You can like get this frame of reference.
I completely agree. And I think that actually our discussion of like the art style and stuff really makes me think of like an interesting miscellaneous thought. So let's move into that section. In our warm-up, I asked if people had been familiar with Fooly Cooly. Like this feels like the art style and everything. It feels like this was ready to be animated in like that early 2000s style, like Adult Swim anime. Like I could imagine the kinds of voice actors, like we talked about Digimon actually, and I could imagine the cast of Digimon, like those really cheesy dub voice actors voicing everyone in this series.
Yeah.
This feels like a time capsule of something that would have been made in 2005. And Jordan, I know you have familiarity with Fooly Cooly. Rem, I wish you had a chance, definitely if you ever cover it. I think we talked a little bit. Fooly Cooly, for context, was actually created by the staff of Evangelion because they got so depressed making Evangelion. They just wanted an emotional release.
Just needed a break.
Yeah.
Fooly Cooly has a scene where a guy's getting a haircut and it just turns into South Park's art style for that entire scene. It's only 6 episodes, Rem. I would definitely, I think you might actually enjoy it. But that's likewise where they were just like, we did this big project. It was so draining. They're like, you know what? Fuck, crashes into a door and then a bunch of birds explode out of the door for no reason. It just looks cool. It's just that where he's just like, I'm doing whatever the fuck I want. Because you saw Shonen Jump was like, he made a really big miniseries. Fuck it, let's see what he can do now. And he absolutely went balls to the wall like Fujimoto did whatever the fuck he's been wanting to do with Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
I will say, I mentioned I read the first chapter. The thing I remember about it is that I stopped reading it about halfway through because I thought it was just complete trash. I thought this was absolute fucking garbage. I hated the art style. I thought it was boring as fuck. And then somebody on the Shonen Flop server was like, it gets better at the end of the chapter. It's like, all right, fine, I'll read the end of the chapter. And I got to the end, I was like, you know what? Actually, it got better.
You're like, fuck you.
I'm sorry. I take it back.
And it's interesting because in a lot of ways, this manga, it has 3 different main hooks. 2 of them happen in the first chapter, right? First, amnesia. Oh, turns out the entire family has amnesia, right? That's the first light hook. And that's the weakest of all the hooks, but it's the opening one. And I kind of admire just how kind of bold you need to be to start with the weakest of the hooks and be like, you have to just keep going and then you'll see what it's really about. Because then we get the real, now all the family, they have specific secrets. There we go. Now we've hit way more interesting hook. And then it takes a few chapters later to then be like, and time loop.
Do you think they're in purgatory like in Lost?
I'm just waiting for J.J. Abrams to show up.
Yeah. It's just, oh man.
Yeah, wasn't he like, they're definitely not in purgatory, and then it ends with them being in purgatory?
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, it was like, fuck, that was the only thing I could think of that made sense. I'm sorry.
See, and it's interesting because with something like this, a part of me is like, oh, it might be fun to like predict or theorize what's going to happen next. But I'm like, I feel so confident that it's going to get increasingly convoluted and with poorly justified anything that I don't think there's a satisfying prediction to be made. Like, this isn't a case where, at least I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think this is a case where you read through it all and then you're like, it's crazy how if you knew what you were looking for, you can see the end from chapter 2. It's like, no, that's this is not that kind of manga.
God, I really, really hope they're not in purgatory. I really hope they're not.
You said it,
God damn it.
It's like brainwormed its way and you're like, oh no.
Oh, that's Frem's figured it out.
Oh, that's what it is, isn't it? God damn it.
All right, so why don't we actually get into it, the last section where we talk about our overall thoughts of what we've read so far. So we know this is probably the nicest thing I've ever heard Rem say about anything in a recording I've been with him. So I would have to say, if you were to rate this as a family sin, so the worse the sin, the worse of the series, what kind of sin would you encapsulate?
Oh my gosh.
So for me, I think this was good. It has issues, so I would say cheating at family game night. You know, like stealing, like when you're making change in Monopoly, you take like an extra $100. That's about the level of family sin I would rate this.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I have to think about this now.
Jordan's like, you've come up with the most complicated possible review system ever. It's as convoluted as this series.
I would say it's the sin of stealing like your sister or your mom's like specialty chocolates.
Oh, fuck. Death penalty.
They're specialty chocolates, but also that's mostly just because of the brand name. They are just basically fancy Hershey's. And so you steal some from them.
My sister did do that, where I had a bunch of chocolate I brought from Denmark and she stole it. And so that's my sister knows that sin well.
Yeah.
But she can't hear this anymore because she stopped being a patron.
Oh,
God
shame.
damn.
That's her family sin. Jordan's going to say that's my review as I rate this as stop being a patron for your brother when he got unemployed.
I would say using the last roll of toilet paper in the whole house.
Oh.
And not telling anybody.
Oh, God.
I'm going to argue, if you only have one roll of toilet paper left in the whole house and nobody is doing something about it, like, you shouldn't have gotten to that point.
Yes.
What if that's the sin, is that they can't do the time loop unless they replace the toilet paper?
Going out to the store and not getting toilet paper when you know that you're almost out.
Okay,
it's up to someone else to buy it, you know?
Yeah.
It's
just waiting for somebody else to get it.
Oh, this was a lot of fun. I almost feel like, Rem, I wish we could just do this full manga with me because I really want to see what you think of it. Rem, I don't know if you want to read more. Do you want me to tell you should keep reading or not as we go through it more? Or do you think you're probably tapped out and you just prefer to end on a high note?
If I were to consume more of it, it would probably be through a plot synopsis.
So how about this, Rem? We'll send you the plot synopsis because we have 2 more recordings that Jordan has to write up. So I'll send them to you. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Rem, I want to say thank you so much. This has been a blast. I've been very excited. We've been waiting for the perfect series to have you back on. So where can everyone find all the awesome things you do?
All right, so the main one is going to be Anime Out of Context, wherever podcasts are found. There's also twitch.tv/Remington Chase as an additional option, just, for miscellaneous nonsense. So those are the 2.
I love it.
Nice.
And then I want to say props to Jordan for being a great co-host and helping with editing.
Thank you, David, for all the stuff that you do. And just being a great co-host and being dummy thick.
Thank you. Props to Illuminati for the awesome cover art. Jordan, anything you want to toss in?
Yeah, check out Mission Ignition. Rem, have you ever seen Vampires?
I've not.
It's a fucking trip. It's a fever dream turned into a 90s children's show.
Yeah.
It's not really a cartoon.
Yeah.
I can't even describe the show.
It's almost as good as A Place Further Than the Universe.
Wow.
God, no. Did you like that, or is that only Sean's favorite?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, that was quite good. Quite well done.
Actually, Rem, what would you say is like the number one anime that you don't regret having watched?
Number one anime I don't regret having watched, something wholesome like A Place Further Than the Universe is a great answer.
Oh, okay.
Odd Taxi is a much better done. If you want a good mystery, all right, that actually is very well thought out, in possible contrast to a certain manga, then Odd Taxi, that's the one. It's a good transition from this manga to that show, I would say.
Even if they're all in purgatory.
Even if they're all in purgatory.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you to our patrons again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.